Guys, it's Erin, and I am back with another mixed media menagerie. If you're unfamiliar with it, this is a collab with Laura, Nicole, and myself. And this month, here are our prompts that we will be using. As always, we'll be working in the Dina Wakley Journal, and I will put everything that I use down in the description box below, along with the links to both Laura and Nicole's channels, so you can check out and see what they did with this month's prompts as well. So I decided to skip the Jean page, and we're going to work on this opened watercolor page spread. And to begin with, I'm going to start with some gesso. I have no idea whatsoever what I'm going to do this month, but I know that it is kind of like New Year's themed, and I'm excited to see how we can bring a lot of sparkle and stuff into the page. So the first prompt rather is a brayer, or I guess requirement for this month. Is a brayer. So I'm going to be using my brayer a lot as we kind of mush this onto the page. And now we're going to grab some magicals. Now if you've never used Lindy's Stamp Gang magicals before, it's this awesome shimmery colorful powder, and you just add water, or you can stick it in gesso. Like, there's tons of things you could do with it. Just check it out. I'm sure there's a bazillion videos. Actually, I think I have a magicals video from way back when I first started YouTube, and I'll put that down in the description box below if you want to check that one out. So I'm just adding a little bit more gesso over the top of it, and this will kind of set the magicals, but also sort of mute it into the background. Again, I'm not sure where this page is going, but we're going to work with a lot of layers. To bring in some more sparkle, I have this fun confetti glitter tissue paper, and I'm just going to take some matte medium and my little Art Alchemy, I think it's actually Prima, it's like a wedge brush. It's just a silicone wedge, and I love it for spreading out glues and gessos and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to gesso that, I'm going to matte medium that down and then press the tissue paper into the page, and this is going to give us some really fun texture. Now this month was my ephemera drop, and I went a little overboard because I love sparkle. Of course, I didn't set everything off to the side that I gave the girls. I mean, I did, but I didn't like take a picture of it. So if you're interested to see what I used, hopefully they have a picture of that. But as you know, I love sparkle, so I'm sure you can imagine all of the things that I stuck into the drop this month. So next I'm going to go ahead, and while this is still wet, I'm not too worried about it, I'm going to take some more gesso and put it over the top. I don't want that sparkle to be like kapow in your face. We want to build up sparkle colored layers, and that's what I'm doing. So I have an old, this is a kitchen towel, and I use that often to wipe my brushes off on, and I thought I would just pull up a little bit of that gesso, and now I have a baby wipe. You could also use like a damp paper towel, and I'm just kind of pulling up some more of that so I can see a little bit more of the shimmer coming through. I'm also actually ripping some of that tissue paper, but I love it because it's going to create this scrumptious texture. So if you end up with a couple rips, that is totally okay. Once you have as much of the gesso pulled up as you like, go ahead and dry it. That was me going, wow, I'm so excited for the little rips because I'm just crazy like that. But I love the texture. So once that's good and dry, we'll go ahead and move on to the next step, which is to add a little bit more color. Now I have this, it's not a high fluid, but it is a golden acrylic, and oh, okay, this is what happens when you put the wrong water jar next to you. I added a little bit of dirty water to the page, but that's okay. I switched my cup, and we're just going to take this and pull it really watery. Like, these next couple layers are going to be super watery, so be careful to paint with a very light brush. Don't push too hard or you will end up ripping more of the pages. But I'm just going to go ahead and spread this beautiful greenish color across the page, and again, everything that I use will be down in the description box below, so if I miss telling you what color I'm using on the screen, that is where you can find it. Now I have a blue, and thank goodness I switched to a larger brush, or seriously, we would probably be here all afternoon. So I'm taking another blue, and we're just going to kind of darken up as we go, but I want to blend these colors together. So sort of darker on the outside and then slowly coming into the lighter kind of pale greenish color in the center. And I'm just working that color back and forth. I'm going to add a little bit more of that green. And because it's so wet, I'm going to take a piece of deli paper. I love doing this. I'm going to take the deli paper and I'm just going to smush it down. And this is going to pull up some of the paint, but it's also going to give us an extremely cool amount of texture. So we're going to carefully push it all in and then peel up and look at that awesome texture. And don't throw this paper away because that'll dry and you can use it for a layer in another page, or actually I kind of use it towards the end. So wait and see how I use that. I went ahead and dried that really good, and now I'm going to take a little bit of shading gray and sort of darken the outside coming in. Now the gray really wasn't doing it for me, so I went ahead and brought in a little bit of a darker blue, and I'm doing the same thing with a brush, and then I will also grab that baby wipe that I used earlier and just use that to kind of pull the paint around, but also to make sure that the edges are blended so we don't have any harsh lines. If you do have harsh lines, that's totally okay too. This is just fun, 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 so remember that. While I was drawing, I thought I really wanted to have a circular element on the page. So I grabbed a bowl from my kitchen that fit the journal spread, and I went ahead and traced around it, and then grabbed my scissors and snip, snip, there we go, cut that baby out. Of course, I don't want the full circle on the page, so what I'm going to do is fold it in half, give it a good press, and then I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to measure a 1-inch mark around the whole of the semicircle. So I'm just going to go here, measure it out. Now if you are a super perfectionist and you want a perfect circle, you could go ahead and grab a protractor or something else to measure around, so that way you get that perfect circle on the inside. But I'm going to eyeball it, and this works good enough for me. So I'm just tracing it around here, and then I will grab my scissors and go ahead and cut that out again. Of course, while I was cutting that out, I thought, okay, now I have an idea. Now we've got this circle in here, I need to have another focal element, and I really wanted to do some more hands. I've been trying to remember to meditate every day, and I thought just some praying hands would be something that I'd like to continue into the next year. So off camera, I went ahead and sketched out some hands, and last time I did hands, I didn't show my process, and everybody was kind of like, oh, I really wanted to see that. So this time I thought I would go ahead and leave my painting process in. Now, while the process is super sped up, if hearing about my process and learning how I go about painting my skin tones and portraits is something you're interested in, I am actually a guest teacher on 2 different year-long workshops. The first one is the Art is Magic Make Create Express workshop that's going on right now, but you can join because it is a work at your own pace, so you could join anytime. In that I have 2 different projects, one of which is working with the highlights and shadows of the face, and for that we just use a Stabilo and 1 craft paint. And the other one is a little bit more in-depth, layering acrylic and pastels. Both projects are a full step-by-step and also have accompanying PDFs. I love year-long workshops because it's a fabulous way to sample artwork by tons of different artists and learn a lot of new tips, tricks, and techniques. If that is something that you are interested in, you can check those down in the description box below for that. I also have Paint Your Heart and Soul 2021, which launches on January 1st. So if you want to hop in on that and paint along with us the whole year, we would love to have you along. While I don't have pictures of that up yet, of my projects, I will give you just a sampling of a couple other portraits that I have done, so you can kind of get a feel for my style. And to see more of my portfolio, you can check out my website, erindecoste.com, or you can follow me over on Instagram. I would love to have you follow me, and that is at erin.decoste. Okay, so let's jump back into this painting. So this is more of a super quickie hands. I could have spent a lot more time on it, but oh my gosh, this video would have been like hours long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out now, and I'm going to use an X-Acto blade, and we'll just speed this up really quickly. It's always funny how it looks totally different once it's cut out. Actually, it looks a little bit better. And I'm going to leave the ends kind of rounded off and just raw, and this is where, ooh, I'm going to cross my fingers because I decided to make this an interactive page. So I'm going to cut the hands out ever so carefully and kind of keeping along with, you know, the rounded areas of the palms and the hands. And oh, of course, I'm out of frame because I got to bring that up close to my old eyes so I can see what I'm doing. My birthday's coming up, so yeah, it's getting to be that time where I'm going to start needing those readers. Oy vey! Anyways, back to the project here. So I have my hands cut out, and we're just going to go ahead and bring back the journal so we can kind of test it out and see how it looks there. Now we've got our circle and then the hands, and so I have this vision of them pulling apart. I'm not exactly sure how the heck I'm going to do that yet. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and add some sparkle to this circle. One of my favorite ways to add sparkle to a page is to use some gold leafing. Now, I thought we would mix it up this time, and instead of using gold leaf, what about copper? So I have this copper leaf, and I think that would really accent the hands and kind of set it off well. So we'll put that off to the side, and I'm just going to grab some Oohoo glue stick. I'm going to glue some down, and then I'm just going to take that gold leaf and go ahead and throw it on. I'm not even going to be careful. This is so messy. It gets so messy, and you end up with gold leaf, well, in this case, copper leaf everywhere, but it really adds such a fun and beautiful accent to your page. So I thought I would bring back some of that pastel and go in where some of those white bits were showing because I didn't have it. I wanted to leave a little bit of the bits showing, but that wasn't working for me. So I went ahead and took some more of that shading, the gray shading, or the gray tone rather, sorry. And I'm just going to paint it around the circle, and I'm going to do that, I think 2 coats, and just to kind of grunge up the little white bits of the circle that are showing. Once that's done, I'm going to take that pastel again and I'm going to run it around the inside edges and the outside edges of the circle and then run my finger through it. This way, none of the white of the circle is going to show through and, you know, kind of stick out oddly. It's just one of those weird things back from my scrapbooking days that I like to bring into my projects now. While I was doing that, I was thinking about how I was going to create this page as interactive. So what I was kind of measuring out in my head was I would put my circle down, there's the center there, kind of line it up, and then have my hands here. Let me get, you know how the table gets, just mess everywhere. So I'm going to put my hands there, and then I'm going to guesstimate about where I want to stick the little interactive portion. So what I'm going to do is run a page in. I won't tell you yet. Just watch and see, because, you know, the magic unfolds. So I have a pastel pencil here, and I'm just sort of sketching out where I want that to go, so that way when I take everything off, I can see to line up my page. Here's a little, I'm not explaining it very well, but I have the ruler here so that way I can make sure it's straight across on both sides. So as you can see, we're going to have that band in the center. Then what I'm going to do is take my X-Acto blade, and I'm going to measure out where the edge of, or the edge of the inside of the circle is, and then I'm going to make a cut about from the center of the page in. And this is like where the hands come together, so I don't need to worry about that part. So I kind of got it lined out here. So we're going to assume it's going to pull out there. And then between where it's going to pull out and the edge of the circle, I'm going to go ahead and cut a little line. This is probably easier for you to see than the way I am explaining it, so hopefully you understand. If not, go ahead and leave me a comment down below and I'll get back to you. So I've got some construction paper here and I cut it out. Now remember I said I used that deli paper? Well, I covered the inside of that, so that way you wouldn't see where our little slider is. Ha ha! I'm sneaky like that. But as you know, I also like to make sure that things kind of blend into the background so it's not super noticeable. So that's what I did. And I've got that both sides, and I have it folded back so I can put the glue, and that's what's going to hold on to my hand. The slider from going all wonky on the back side, I have cut some watercolor paper, and we're going to glue that on either side of our little slider. This is going to create almost like a little channel, so that way our slider stays in place when we glue the pages together. And I am going to go ahead and glue it a little bit off of the top, so that way when I cut it, I know that I have the correct length. So I'm just lining it up there, and then I'm gluing that down with just a little bit of glue stick. We're going to go ahead and do that to both sides of our pages, so you can see that one's already done. That way it'll slide in and out freely and easily and not be all wonky. And the last element of our prompt this month was a paper roll. So I'm going to grab a dark blue and a lighter blue paint, and I'm going to go ahead and use our paper roll dunked into it and create some circles coming from the outside of the pages in. Now that we have our circles dry, we're going to go ahead and start putting this page together. So we're going to bring in our circle here. I'm just going to line it up to make sure it's even, both up and down, and then also deciding which direction I want it, because there's a little bit more grunge on one side versus the other. So once I have that in place, I'm going to go ahead and fold it over and use some glue stick. I'm just checking here to make sure that once those hands are in place, I think I want to add another circle there, so that way it continues to make it look like it's going across the full page, even though I don't want it to go fully across the page. So we're just going to kind of dab that on both sides and then go ahead and give that another dry. This is the fun of, you know, creating on the fly. You just got to roll with it, and then you go, oh, I like this, oh, I don't like that, how can we work this, how can we work that? It's just all part of the process. So we're going to go ahead and add that little circle there, give that a super quick dry, and then we will grab our Oohoo glue stick and go ahead and glue down our copper circle. To glue on the hands, I have some sequin double-sided tape. You could use any double-sided tape. I am just going to go ahead and, not very carefully, just put this square on here. And it's a little bit bigger, and that's okay. We can just kind of roll up the excess. It's always so much fun to try and pull that top side off there. So we're just going to leave that there, and we'll do the same thing to the other side. Now, be careful when you go to glue on your hands or whatever element that you have, because the double-sided tape is once and done. So to kind of fudge that time frame a little bit, I'm going to grab a little bit of Oohoo glue stick, any glue stick will work, and you put that over the top of your double-sided tape. This is going to give it an extra glue helping, but also give you a little bit of wiggle room, so that way if you mess up or you need to move it, you have a little bit extra time before it fully sets on there. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to line up the hands, and then I want to make sure that my little tab, the outside of it, is right on the outside of the hand, so that way when it pulls away, it's going to pull enough out so we can have a sentiment on the inside. So there we go. We're just going to go ahead and give that a good pressing down so it doesn't move, and then we can move on to the next step. Something I like to do at the beginning of every year is choose a word. It may not necessarily be a word that stays with me throughout the whole year, but it's a word that I know at the beginning of the year is something I'd like to focus on. And my word for this year is embrace. And while I'm writing this in my own handwriting, I'm thinking of all the things that I could work on embracing this next year. Let's start off with embracing my own handwriting. I'm not always a fan of it, but you know, embrace yourself. Embrace all of yourself. The things you don't like, the things you do like. Embrace the chaos. No matter what the world throws at us this next year, let's embrace it with love and light. Do you choose a word for the next year as well? I would love to know what word you chose, so please leave me a comment down in the description box below letting me know. I took a gray pen and I went ahead and wrote around the outside of the circle just some goals, some things that I'd like to think about and embrace in the new year. It doesn't pick up very well on camera and in the bright light, but you can kind of see a hint of it there around the outside of the circle. I grabbed a couple extra blue pastels and went around the outsides of the page. At this point, I realized that the prompt was actually oil pastels, not chalk pastels, but what are you gonna do? It's still a pastel, right? So now I have some yellow pastel, and I wanted to create a bit of a haze, almost like a glow around the outside of the circle, and that's what I'm doing here. a bit of the Finnabar Art Alchemy wax. This is the aged brass, and I'm just going around the outside to add a little bit more dimension and shimmer to our circle. And now I have a black Stabilo pencil, and I'm just going to take that around the outside and the inside and just run a little bit of water to kind of make that circle pop up and give it a three-dimensional look. After you finish this video, don't forget to pop on over and check out and see what both Laura and Nicole did with this month's prompts. It's always so fun to see how each of us create using the prompts. They end up so different, and that's what makes this collaboration so much fun. So I grabbed my scissors and just cut the excess off of my little sliders, and now I have some double-sided tape so we can go ahead and tape our pages to the jean. Now make sure you do not tape where your little channel is, just tape around that. That way it'll spin, or rather slide freely. Go ahead and do that to both sides of the journal spread. The last thing we're going to do is grab a marker here, well, one that works. I'm going to grab some more gold, and I'm going to create some arrows here so that way we know to pull these tabs out to make our interactive page work. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. It truly was a journey from start to finish, but we did it. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. One of the best things about art journaling is that I get to do it with you. If there is a video that you guys would like to see me create, let me know down in the description box below. And if you would like to create alongside us, be sure to use the hashtag #MixedMedia Menagerie over on Instagram so we can see all of your amazingly fabulous work. I'm looking forward to journeying with you all in 2021. Have an amazingly happy new year, and until next time, happy creating.